The lessons of today are quite clear and concise. It tells us the grace of God is the giver of all that we have. And failing to acknowledge this, or worse yet, denigrating those who are not currently under the umbrella of His grace, will bring nothing to us but utter destruction. The second lesson laid the ground rules for us. And the first lesson gives us an example of how those rules could be broken and what the reward and recompense of breaking those rules are. We can start the journey. The second lesson, if anyone has it open. I say then,
have they stumbled that they should fall? God forbid.
Have they stumbled that they should fall? God forbid, yes. So this is Paul speaking to the Gentiles now regarding the Jews. It was explaining to the Gentiles how they became a member of the household of God. In Romans 8, I believe, it tells us that we are adopted children. We don't have that spirit of fear anymore, but the spirit of adoption that cries what? Abba, Father. So this is Paul explaining to us how we became these adopted children. Yes?
But rather, through their fall, salvation is come unto the Gentiles.
Through the fall of the Jews, salvation now came to the Gentiles. Yes?
For to provoke them to jealousy.
For to provoke them to jealousy, yes. Continue, please.
Now if the fall of them be the riches of the world,
yes,
and the diminishing of them the riches of the Gentiles,
yes,
how much more their fullness?
Thank you. So because of their fall, we have the opportunity to be grafted. You can sit down. We'll come back to it. Because they fell, we now have the opportunity at grace. We have the opportunity to be the children of God because of their fall. And this is the first thing Paul is trying to explain to us. That this was not something we gained of anything we had done. We have not been called children of God because we just decided to serve Him, because we decided to be good, because we decided to love Him. We became His children because He called us in.
Yes.
Because He chose us. Yes. Because He designated us. Because He grafted us into Himself. And why was this possible? Because there was space. And that space came from the fall of the Jews. When I thought about the whole thing, the Jews weren't doing what the Lord asked them to do. So because of that, He cut off the branches that were them. And then looked around and said, these Gentiles are doing what I asked them to do. So He brought them in. And of course, for those who are sports fanatics, the last few months have been soccer. There's Copa America, there's the Euros going on now. And that was the first thing that came to my mind when I was reading it. The coach has the 11 players in there. But when one of them begins to perform below expectation, what does the coach do? He subs him out. He subs him out. He takes him out and puts somebody who he thinks can actually add value to the game. And that's what Coach Jesus did here. He took out the Jews and said, you Gentiles can actually add value. Let me put you in. That was the first thing, was performing below par. That made them come out. Then there's another reason you could come out of a game. For those who know the game, what is it?
Red card.
A red card when you hurt somebody else. When you destroy another person. When you purposely go out and hurt somebody else. Then what does the referee do? He gives you a warning first.
Yellow card.
If it's not too bad. If it's egregious though, what happens? Straight red. And you're done for the game. And if it's even super egregious, what happens? You get a call from FIFA. You can be suspended for a few months. And then if you are even overly angry, you can even get suspended overall from the game altogether. It just happened in basketball. Somebody who they found using drugs for like the 900th
2
time.
years now.
And now he's banned for the next 2 years. Look at Pete Rose in basketball, because he gambled, he's banned forever. But those are the elements that can happen. First, you perform below par, you get subbed out. You hurt somebody else, you get a red card and you get removed. These are the elements that kick you out of the game. And that was exactly what happened to the Gentiles. And now, the Jews, sorry. And now this is what Paul is now warning us about in today's second lesson. Please continue from where you stopped.
For I speak to the Gentiles.
Yes.
Inasmuch as I am the apostle of the Gentiles.
All right, just go to verse 18 before they start telling me about time.
Boast not against the branches.
He said, do not boast against the branches. First of all, when that person is given a red card, don't go taunt them now and say, look, you've been removed from the game. Or somebody subbed out and you're coming in and now you start mocking them. Don't boast, because it wasn't of your own doing. It took somebody else falling for you to even come into this game. It took somebody else doing something less for you to be opportune to come in here. So it is not of your doing. So do not boast like your righteousness got you here. It's not because of all the Bible you think you read, all the songs you sing before you go to sleep. It's not because of all the prayers that you think you've made. It is the pure grace and desire of God that has gotten you to where you are. So don't boast about anything you do or are able to do, because it is not your will that allows you to do that. If God decided to give birth to you in Pakistan, in the life of a Muslim family, do you think you find Christ? Or if God decided to give birth to you in the slums of India and all you were doing day and night was trying to find a way to eat, you think Christ will be the first thing you find? But it is His grace that has put you in this situation, that has given you the opportunity to find Him, to look for Him. So Paul is now telling you through his words here that do not boast as if you are the one doing something for God. He speaks about the root. Continue.
But if thou boast,
yes,
thou bearest not the root.
You see, you're boasting like you're the one giving something to the root. You're not giving anything to God. But it is what?
But the root thee.
But it's the root that bears you.
Yes.
It is the root that gives to you. It is the root that feeds you. It is the root that sustains you. It is the root that has chosen you. Verse 19.
Thou wilt say then, the branches were broken off that I may be grafted in. Well, because of unbelief, they were broken off.
Because of unbelief is why they were broken off.
Yes.
So, if somebody was taken off because they did not believe, because they hurt somebody else, because they performed below par, what do you think will, and those are the ones that were born into it. What do you think will happen to you, who is the adopted child, if you perform below par? Have you ever seen when they sub somebody into the game for half time, they don't do well, they sub them out again? They're not going to see the field for a couple of games. So if those who are naturally the children of God were removed for unbelief, how much more us who are now adopted? Yes.
And thou standest by faith.
Yeah, verse 20 to 21.
20. Well, because of unbelief.
Because of unbelief.
They were broken off.
Yes.
Thou standest by faith.
Yes.
Be not high-minded.
Do not
fair.
be high-minded, but be what? Be fair. And this is the other part now. The hurting somebody else. The reasons why you can get a yellow or red card. Be fair, yes.
For if God spared not the natural branches.
For if God did not spare those He loved, the starters, the ones that He actually chose from the beginning of the game to win this for them, yes.
Take heed lest He also spare not thee.
Take heed, He will not spare you. Thank you. Take heed, for He will not spare you. So He has given us the parameters now. Those who were removed because they performed below par, because they hurt others. He's now telling you that if I graft you in, I expect you to perform better than these people. And that takes us to the first lesson. The city of Tyrus. And just to give you a bit of background, they're a port city in the Middle East there. So all trade was coming through them. They were huge tradespeople. They became very rich. They became incredibly wealthy. And they continued to grow from strength to strength. And then that did something to them. In this same period, those from Jerusalem were suffering. Because once again they had offended God. And God had put them under punishment. But what does it say now in that verse 26 of the first lesson?
Thy rowers have brought thee.
It says, thy rowers have done what?
Brought thee into great waters.
They have brought you, your rowers have brought you to great waters, yes.
The east wind had broken thee in the midst of the sea.
Thank you. Let's pause there. Your rowers brought you into the middle of great waters. And because of that, the east wind did what? It broke you into pieces. What are the rowers? These are the drivers. The things that direct you, that lead your life. What inspires you here? What is your life about? The rowers brought these people into the midst of trouble, and the wind destroyed them. Do you know what the rowers were? Thank God for the readings. If you go to Ezekiel 26, just from verse 1 to 4, you
And
hear what
it
the
came
rowers
to
were.
pass
It came to pass
in the 11th year,
in the 11th year.
in the first day of the month,
Yes.
that the word of the Lord came unto me,
Yes.
saying,
Yes.
Son of man,
Son of man,
because that Tyrus hath said against Jerusalem,
listen to what Tyrus did. Tyrus said against Jerusalem,
ha, she is broken.
you are broken.
That was the gates of the people.
Obi, you were God's loved ones. Now see what God has done to you. That's what Tyrus did.
She is turned unto me.
She has turned unto me.
I shall be replenished.
I will be replenished. So all the good things Jerusalem had before is gone. I am the one enjoying it now.
Now she's laid waste.
They became high-minded. They mocked Jerusalem while they were down. And we've heard it here 100 times. Micah 7:8. Do not rejoice over me, my enemy. I will rise again, because it was the Lord that put them down. I knew the Lord would lift them up again. That was their inspiration. That was their motivation. Was to mock people. Was to mock that which was smaller than them. They were thriving. They were doing great. They had just bought a new house. They just bought a new car. They just had a new child. And then they mocked those who were still catching taxes to church. They mocked those who weren't putting on the fanciest clothes. They mocked those who were working in Walmart and not in some corporate's office.
Wall Street.
No, in Wall Street, yeah. Walmart, not Wall Street. That's a good one, by the way. That was what they were doing. The Walmart guy came to talk to them, and I go, where do you work? He's like, Walmart. The girl that, sorry. Because she was higher now. She had been lifted up. Her mouth was full, her belly was full. Now, Walmart wasn't good enough anymore. Now it was time to mock them. That was their inspiration. That was something that motivated them. What was the second thing? Ezekiel 28. No, just go to 28 from verse 1 to 2.
Okay.
We'll hear the other thing they did.
The word of the Lord came again unto me, saying,
So they became so big now that after it wasn't good enough that they were mocking those who were broken. What else did they do? Yes.
Son of man,
Yes.
say unto the prince of Tyrus,
Say unto the prince of Tyrus,
thus saith the Lord God,
thus saith the Lord God,
because thine heart is lifted up,
your heart is lifted up.
and thou hast said, I am a God.
You have said, I am a God. Thank you. The rest is curses, so we don't need to read that. But because you lifted yourself up now, and you now said you are a God, I will destroy you. In Ezekiel 28, if you go to verse 15, it says you were perfect before me, without iniquity.
Thou art perfect in thy ways.
You were perfect in your ways.
In the day that thou wast created.
You were perfect from when I created you. When I grafted you into the tree. When I put you into the game. You were perfect, yes.
Till iniquity was
Till
found
iniquity
in thee.
was found in thee. Thank you. Till iniquity was found in thee. You were perfect when I brought you into this church. You were perfect when I delivered you from your trials. You were perfect when I saved you and I loved you. You were perfect when I married you. But over time now, iniquity has been found in you. all of a sudden, you think you are just like me, or you're better than me. We have a responsibility, in fact, a charge to lead a life of humility. This is the requirement of God from us. Our focus, our rowers, our drivers should not be elements that destroy the lives of others, but those that build people up. Those that focus on the beautiful things of Christ. And a very simple story that we all know from the Bible will help us with this. Luke 7 from verse 36. And this is us too. It is not just from the days of old. This is the nature that we carry to as human beings.
One of the Pharisees desired.
Read it.
And one of the Pharisees desired him.
And one of the Pharisees desired him, yes.
That he would eat.
Yes.
With him.
Yes.
And he went into the Pharisee's house.
Jesus went into the house of this Pharisee, yes.
And sat down to meat.
Yes.
And behold,
Behold,
a woman in the city,
a woman in the city.
which was a sinner,
She was a sinner, yes.
when she knew that Jesus sat at the meat
Once she saw that Jesus was there, yes.
in the Pharisee's house,
Yes.
brought an alabaster box of ointment,
She brought an alabaster box, yes.
and sat at his feet behind him, weeping,
She went at his feet weeping
and began to wash his feet with tears,
and began to wash his feet with tears
and did wipe them with the hairs of her head.
and wiped it. Now, this is somebody who's crying, who's sorrowful at the feet of Christ, crying. And this is not just any Christ. This is the Christ everyone knows is the deliverer at this point. He had healed, he had converted, he had forgiven sins. So they knew the power that was in Christ. And this was someone who was crying at his feet, yes.
And kissed his feet,
And she even kissed his feet, yes.
and anointed them with the ointment.
Yes.
Now when the Pharisee which had bidden him saw it,
Now look at those who were watching. The first thing they noticed, yes.
he spake within himself, saying,
They spake within themselves, saying,
This man,
this man,
if he were a prophet,
if he was a prophet,
would have known who and what manner of woman this is,
it would have known who and what man. He didn't see the tears. He didn't care about that piece. What he cared about was that this woman was a sinner. That was all he cared about. There wasn't any empathy. There wasn't any sympathy. His focus was on the nature of who she was. Yes.
that touched him,
Yes.
for she is a sinner.
For she's a sinner.
And Jesus answering said unto him,
And Jesus answered, saying unto him,
Simon,
Simon,
I have somewhat to say unto thee.
I have something to tell you.
And he saith, Master, say on.
Yes.
There were a certain creditor which had 2 debtors,
There was someone who had 2 debtors. Yes.
that one owed 500 pence,
Yes.
and the other 50.
Yes.
And when they had nothing to pay,
Yes.
he frankly forgave them both.
He forgave them both.
Tell me therefore,
Tell me,
which of them will love him most?
which of them will love him most? And this is where you now start to understand that we make the choice to be bad. We make the choice to be evil. Because what does he say?
Simon answered and said,
I
suppose that he to whom he forgave most.
I suppose him that he has forgiven them. So it's not a lack of knowledge. It is just a lack of the desire to empathize with others. Because we desire to reflect ourselves as great rather than cater to those who are beneath. We don't care. Thank you very much. We can pause it. We don't care about helping those who are down. We only care about demonstrating that we are great. People have gone into debt because they want to demonstrate that they are great. You buy clothes you can't afford. You buy cars that you can't afford. You do things that you can't afford simply because you want to show yourself as great. We were making jokes. There was a picture we saw one time, and we all do it in Nigeria. You go next to a nice car, you take a picture and you send it home. It's not your car, but you sit down next to the car because you want people to at least have the perception that you're able to do something like that. When you're in your 1-bedroom apartment, you don't invite anybody. When you buy your 6-bedroom mansion, you want everyone to come for barbecue every week. It is not because you desire to have them. It's because what is important to you is to show how great you are. So that was what this Pharisee was trying to prove. He didn't care that this woman was in pain. All he cared about was that she was unrighteous. Why? Because he was righteous in his own eyes. And that is what we do over and over again. Look at what she's wearing. I can't believe she came to church like that. What is your business? It is between her and God. Let God judge her. Let God judge them. And we do it. The best of us do it. I do it. We find the imperfections in everybody, but we cannot find a single one with ourselves. When all we need to do is shut up. There was I think it was the word of the day. What was it? The silence. It is in silence that we... Sorry, I'll try to remember it, but I can't. Help me find that word of the day that you read again, please. But that's the truth of the matter. We don't keep quiet and listen to ourselves. Just listen to ourselves. And it is not just that, it is in righteousness too. God was not stupid. That's why he said it in Ecclesiastes 7:14 or 15. We'll get to him in a second. Ecclesiastes 7:14 or 15. What does he say there?
In the day of prosperity.
In the day of prosperity.
Be joyful.
Be joyful.
But in the day of adversity.
In the day of adversity.
Consider. God also had set the one over against the other.
Yes.
To the end that man should find nothing after him.
Yes. No, continue. I have to find it.
All things have I seen in the days of my vanity.
Yes.
There is a just man.
Yes.
That perisheth in his righteousness.
That's it. There's a just man that perishes in what? In his righteousness. Continue.
Oh, okay. And there is a wicked man.
And there's a wicked man.
That prolongeth his life in his wickedness.
And you prolong your life. God bless you. Listen to that. Doesn't it sound crazy? How can... This your MI5 phone has locked. Just hold it. You'll read it for me, please. I don't have my contact, so I can't see that. His phone is all stylish, and you can ask his wife about his phone. No man in this world can enter that phone. Only spirits of Jesus. But he said, I've seen a righteous man perish in his righteousness. And then if you read the subsequent verse after that, it says, do not be overly righteous. And that is what we do. That is who we become. God had foreseen this. That's why he spoke through the son Solomon and said, tell these people, please do not be overly righteous. Do not carry yourself higher than the rest of the world. Do not say my sutana is whiter than yours. You have no idea what this person came from. You have no idea whether they slept on the street the night before. And the fact that they're in church is enough of a blessing in itself. If it's not sutana, it's not good enough, then ask them to give you the sutana as they go home so you can wash it and bring it for them next Sunday. There's nothing wrong with that. You see, we have a calculated Christianity that we think is okay. We think back in the days was back in the days. There's no reason for us to be that deep with it. But there is. There are people who suffer in silence in this place. And all we do is mock them. That's all we do. We see somebody trying to be great and we're not there to support them. All we do is pull ourselves into the corner and say, dang, that thing was terrible. Somebody has a party. They couldn't even bring good food. What kind of rubbish was this? These are the things we do. I see it here. People bring food to church. They couldn't bring enough food. Why did they bring so much small chicken? Why? The fact that they even brought one plate is enough. It's enough because you don't know that it's coming out of the poverty that they have. You now compare them to your own wealth and you say to yourself, well, when me I do my own, only the best for God. We say things like that. We don't say we're being fake. Oh, me I only do the best for God. Who asked you? Who knows? Who knows that you didn't just bring a pole over here, paint it in yellow and say it's gold? Who knows? I don't know. Only God can test it. He said you will all be tested with fire. Yes. And it is God that is going to test each and every one of us. So leave it up to God and stop being the judge. Let's aspire for a higher level of Christianity, a higher level of brotherhood, where we don't speak in between others about other people, where we don't hurt others. Let's find the greatness in people. Let us be optimists with people. Don't always think someone is after you or someone is beneath you. If I don't greet you, it is not because I did not see. It just happened out there. And that's why I love this man. He doesn't hide his baba beans. It doesn't. I saw him, I just walked in, my own mind is in a whole different place. I have no idea. He came to me, he's like, you did not see me, you can't greet me. And he put his face up already. But that's his nature. And I love that because he was honest. And I said to him, sorry, I didn't see you. I was even going out to greet you, had already grabbed me. We walked away. I'm like, look at the man, I'm even trying to greet. But somebody else, Deji did not greet me on Sunday, June 3rd. Apostrophe. And then December of this year, I'll go and hug them and say, Happy New Year. No. You Kuku don't greet anybody, I remember. And that's all they'll say. And then when the Lord opens the book, it goes, do you know what she was talking about? It was June 3rd, 2016. So for July 3rd, sorry. I'm trying to celebrate my birthday again. For 6 months, they held on to that. What kind of Christianity is that? What kind of Christianity is that? I'm telling you, it is so easy and so simple for us to destroy ourselves. And we don't know it. We're so firm in our path of righteousness that we swear that we've already collected that crown like Paul. And yet we're not even in the same continent as the crown. It's sad. And honestly, at some point I sat down and it felt like I felt like I built a house that was 12 stories and I didn't even do the foundation right. So I had to break it all down and come back to basics. Christianity is simple, I'm telling you. Look, nobody needs to decipher code of the Bible to you or tie Revelations to Exodus to Micah and say what the Lord was really saying here was this, even though he said this. God is very, very simple. Focus on me. That's all he wants. Don't come to church and look at what everybody else did. When the secretary is rushing and he tabons on the pulpits on there, don't let that be your focus. Or the one that cannot pray in English, how can we have them? Don't focus on any of that. You just focus on your God. Just focus on your God. Because there's a purpose God has chosen for every single one of us here. And it is God that chose that purpose for us. Not you, and not me. Let us become better Christians. Better yet, let us become better human beings. What does Isaiah 11 from verse 2 to 4 say? I just want you to know what God expects from us as Christians.
And the Spirit of the Lord shall rest upon him.
The Spirit of the Lord will rest upon him. He's talking about Christ here, but the Christ that should live in each and every one of us.
The Spirit of wisdom and understanding.
The Spirit of wisdom and understanding.
The Spirit of counsel and mind.
The Spirit of counsel and mind.
The Spirit of knowledge and of the fear of the Lord.
The Spirit of the knowledge of the fear of God, yes.
And shall make him of quick understanding.
He shall make, yes.
In the fear of the Lord.
Yes.
And he shall not judge after the sight of his eyes.
Listen to that. He will not judge by what he sees, yes.
Neither reprove after the hearing of his
Neither
ears.
reprove by what he hears.
But with righteousness,
But with
shall
righteousness
he judge the poor.
shall he judge. God bless you. Thank you.
Thank you.
He said the Spirit of the Lord will direct him. He doesn't care about what he sees on the outside. He doesn't care about what he hears about people. All he cares about is what is inside, what the Spirit can see. What the wisdom of God directs him to do. That is all he cares about. That is all he wants us to do as human beings too. He wants us to stand firm, not on what we see. If Mrs. Amon has offended me and I tell you about it, don't make her your enemy too then, because she has not offended you yet. Let her offend you at least before you claim that she has done something wrong to you. No, I'm being completely serious. It's the truth. God bless I keep looking over there. God bless our sister Wally. But the one thing that was said over and over again, you see, this is the difference between those that you know will find Christ at the end and those that you know you are hoping will find Christ. Okay? Those that you're hoping will find Christ, when they go, people will say, we just know that we're God. We know that we're God. We know that we're God. That's all. We just know that they're in a better place than we're God. But when people who truly know God go, you don't talk about we know that we're God. You talk about how much of a hole they have left behind. You say to yourself that, I think, Baba Gori Day again. I think it was him I was talking to. When I said, if somebody came to say that woman offended them, my question to them would be, what did you do to her? No, it was that simple, because you cannot find drama with her. It is impossible. And even say you're a liar. No, you can't. And that's what people spoke about. They spoke about the reality of the life she lived, not the hope that she was with Christ, because that part is guaranteed already. So there's no need to hope anymore. And that's where you need to be as a human being. Can people actually point to you now and not say there's drama with you?
A lot of drama.
A lot of drama. But that's the truth. That's the truth of the matter. We still have time. As long as you have breath in your lips, you still have time. You still have time. Don't let your first instincts be to gossip, to destroy people. Let it be to lift people up. Even if they call you, Jesus Christ. There was a VP that they just hired in my company last year. They brought him around February. He came in, the whole sourcing department, he's wiped out 80% of the people that were there. 25 years, 30 years. Boom, here's your pink slip. Thank you very much. We don't need you anymore. Here's your package. He brought me in. I sat down, I interviewed with him. He was very brash. I told him all the things I can do. And you know, it's when the interview time comes, the British accent comes in like 200-fold. I'm like, no, actually, I promise you, I can do this work intensely. I really can't. And the man sat there and he goes, I can't say the word. He said BS, and he actually said the word. And this is an executive. I hope you're not BSing me with all these things you say. I'm like, look, I'm too grown. And at this point, I only had one child. I'm like, I have a son at home and a wife. You think I want to go into a job I can't do, only to fail and be fired, and then my wife and my kid are looking at what? I'm like, I'm too grown for any of that. I can do this job. He hired me. Everything is history since then. Thank God it's been great, great upon great. But people keep getting fired and all that. Leaving work on Thursday, get an email. I just want to let you all know, thank you very much. July 29th will be my last day. I'm like, wow. See me, I had, it's not Celeb. It was actually my friend. There was no problems. I had no problems with it. He brought me in. So, let's just put it this way. God's will be done. And so, I had kind of heard from the grapevine already. 1 or 2 people went to HR and said he cursed them out. He did this, he did that. Before you know it, HR doesn't play. They're like, thank you very much. Here's your package. Carry yourself and go. Now, this is the man that was firing people like nothing. And he said it to me once, where I was like, yeah, you know that people who are unhappy with you on the floor, but that's natural. When you're a boss, not everyone's going to like you. He said, don't worry. I'm going to get rid of every explicit last one of them. And I smiled and I was like, okay, that's how he talks. I mean, when he's in privacy, just... And he said that. He said that confidently. I am going to get rid of every single one of them. Now, who's looking for a job? This is real life. You see, I have to get rid of people too. It's not like I didn't have to. I mean, it's stupidity. If someone's not doing their job, you do have to get rid of them. But there's a way, a respectable way to do it. Where you say, we thank you. It's not working anymore though, and they understand. You know, that's the way you do it. Not destroy. He lifted up himself and made himself God. And now, that's it. He's gone too. And that's God showing himself and saying, hey, you think you were greater than I was? I'm the one who wrote this. This is all the Lord desires from us, is to respect one another, is to ask for a different level of Christianity. Even in our Deuteronomy 32:35, it says, vengeance is mine, says the Lord. So when you take vengeance, what are you telling God? I can handle it. I am you. I am God. Listen to that. Go and ask Herod and go and ask Nebuchadnezzar what happened when they thought they were God. Touch the anointed of God. And that's the other thing we don't know. Who is the anointed of God? You are not the one that anointed, is God. So when you are going against somebody, you don't know if you are talking against the anointed of God and destroying yourself. That is what Tyrus did. That is all they did wrong, was speak against Jerusalem, the chosen ones of God, the ones that God loved already, and God destroyed them. So be careful. It is better to just be at peace with everyone, because you don't know if God can say in that Ecclesiastes, you read it, that I have seen one in his wickedness get delivered. How do you know it is not wickedness that is inspired by God? But we go out there and we point at people and we do this thing. Stand up and live at peace with people, because that is what the Lord demands from every single one of us. In Isaiah 54, I think, 7-9, he says, for a little while I have deserted you. Those that he loves. So it's not that Christ is always with those he loves. Sometimes they'll be naked out in the streets. And that is where you have the opportunity to point at them and say, Obi. But remember what happens when God comes back to clothe them. He's going to ask them, give me the list of all the people who berated you while I left you alone. And he will avenge every single one of them. So please don't make it to the list of God's vengeance. In Hebrews 10, it says it's a terrible thing to fall into the hands of God. Let me close up. I'll just scroll all the way to the bottom. Romans 12, from verse 15.
Rejoice with them that do rejoice,
Rejoice with those that rejoice.
and weep with them that weep.
Weep, don't mock those who weep. That is what the Pharisee did in his house when the woman with the alabaster box was weeping. He says weep with them. He didn't say mock them or point out their imperfections. He says show empathy. That's all. That's all. If I know you're broken, that's fine. I don't need to be all up in your brokenness. I just need to feel empathy for you and say everything will be well and leave it at that. But that's not us. We want to be wrapped up in everybody's life and everybody's business. Let's just stand firm. Weep with those who weep. Rejoice with those who rejoice. Yes.
Be of the same mind.
Be of the same mind. Not body, not physical abuse. Be of the same mind. Be spiritual with them. Connect with them on that level. Not on the physical. Yes.
One toward another.
One towards another. Yes.
Mind not high things.
Do not mind high things. Don't lift yourself up. Even spiritually, don't think you've reached anywhere where you need to explain everything in the Bible to somebody. Sometimes they have something to feed you too. That is when you become overly righteous. Yes.
But condescend to men of low estate.
Condescend. That is what God is asking you to do. No matter how great you are, bend down to their level. When you see kids, talk to them like kids and play with them like kids. Don't say you're stupid, shut up, get out of here. Condescend to their level, because that is Christianity. That is not you being a good adult. Yes. That is just Christianity. Don't think you're being a good Christian is only to your fellow, somebody who is your age. Even to the children, the way you treat them, the way you speak to them, the way you handle them. God is looking at that too. Yes.
Be not wise in your own conceit.
Don't be wise in your own conceit. Yes.
Recompense to no man evil for evil.
Don't pay evil back for evil. Yes.
Provide things honest in the sight of all men.
Yes.
If it be possible.
If it be possible.
As much as lieth in you.
As much as it is in you, with everything that you have. Yes. Listen, it says as much as lieth in you, as much as I've given you. If you have exhausted all your patience, okay? When I'm saying this, there are people who touch you. Before they even turn, you flip down. You haven't even been patient for a minute. He said as much as you have in you, live at peace with all men. With all that is in you. You know what all that is in you is? When all that is in you is empty, what happens? Doctors, you're what? You're dead. So until you're dead, live at peace with all men. If you can come back then after and scare people, then that's fine. Because the Bible only says until you use up all that is in you. So what does that mean? It means as long as you're on this earth, my expectation is that you live at peace with everybody. As long as you have breath in your lips, God bless you. That's what Christ did. It's crazy. They were nailing his hands. They were killing him. They were beating him. He said, have mercy upon them, for they don't know what they do. They called him and said, we're coming to arrest you at 4:30 p.m. Even if we got immigration and not police calling us saying we're coming to us at 4:30, we'll find a way to be at McDonald's at that time. But what did Christ do? He sat at the garden and waited. Because that is what he was called to do by Christ, God. Do the will of God. Live at peace with all men. So that the peace that passeth all understanding can be yours.